Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So this is going to be the Dawn of Fire Wolftime spoiler summary. It is the third book in the Dawn of Fire series. So if you're currently reading it, if you haven't read it and you want to read it and you don't want to be spoiled, then leave the video right now. This is your first and only warning. A massive shout out to a chap called Craig over on my Discord server. Without him, I wouldn't be able to do this because he had the book version and I have the audio version. So he did the write-up for me. So thank you, Craig. You're an absolute legend. So the book begins following an unnumbered son by the name of Gaius, who is a son of Rus. He comes from the gene stock of Leman Rus. He and other Primaris are fighting Night Lords on the planet named Gespelin. The Night Lords have conquered a few planets, mainly due to those planets surrendering out of fear. The Primaris win, and then they're told that they are being sent to Fenris. The Primaris Marine had previously saved the Historitor, and the result of this, he was given a book about Fenrisian customs where he's been reading about, Fenris and space wolves. This is all from the pre-heresy era. He studies this and begins to try and act more wolfer despite never ever been to Fenris before. The book then cuts to another bunch of space wolves, Lord and Grimnar and stuff like that, and they are on board a Space Hulk attacking the Orks. The Orks have become a ton more active since the Great Rift. The Space Wolves and their area of space are completely cut off from the Imperium, and they have no idea what is happening with the big rift appearing. They have no word from Terra. They're basically on their own. They have linked up with some nearby chapters, one being the Black Templars, who have a crusade in the area to try to protect that region of space from the Orks. Now, on board this Space Hulk, the Space Wolves are going deeper and deeper inside, hunting the Orks, and they get to the center of it, which turns out to be like a fortress. The Orks have turned this Space Hulk into their own little HQ, and it has walls where they've all ripped down, all the orky stuff you can imagine with Orks, what Orks do. So they're using this big Space Hulk as a HQ, and the Space Hulk itself actually resides next to the Great Rift, but for some reason it keeps resisting the pull of the warp whenever the rift starts to suck it in. So there's some kind of Ork shenanigans going on which the Space Wolves can't understand. So the Space Wolves break into the fortress, they siege it, they break open the doors. There's a cool little battle scene, dreadnoughts and stuff, smashing it open. But the Space Wolves then start to get beat back by the Orks, because the Orks are being led by an Ork Psycho Warlord, and he has his power amplified by the Great Rift, because he possesses a Blackstone Fortress staff, which is amplifying his power to make him more powerful, which of course makes the Orks more powerful. So the Space Wolves themselves pull back out of their initial assault on the fortress and begin a long siege to try and wear the Orks down. Logan Grimnar, being Logan Grimnar, swears an oath to kill every last Ork on the Space Hulk, but they have to abandon it due to them being summoned back to Fenris. Now, there is a prophecy/vision by Najal Stormcaller, and that is that a son of the Allfather has returned and is on his way back to Fenris. Now, they think it could be Rus, so they absolutely all just leave, just in case Rus has returned. Now, another prophecy that Najal Stormcaller has is that the Great Wolf, Logan Grimnar, is going to die by a big green beast. They think it means that Logan Grimnar is going to be killed by Gaz Skull. Logan Grimnar, hearing this, is determined to face his fate, believing it's on the Space Hulk, and he's of course trying to change that fate, but it's hanging over him and making him make bad decisions. Arjak Rockfist, his champion, is guarding him and is determined not to let Logan Grimnar die. Najal and Arjak keep advising Logan against reckless decisions, but Ulrich the Slayer is advising Logan Grimnar to fight with the mindset of, if our chapter dies in the process, then at least we die with honor. It's mentioned that, of course, Ulrich the Slayer is actually getting old now, and he senses his time to die is coming. So Najal and Arjik suspect that Ulrich just wants to die in battle and is advising Logan Grimnar poorly. Now, of course, a part of the Indominus Crusade branches off to deliver the Primaris technology to the Sons of Rus on Fenris. During their journey, they bump into Crom Dragonglaze's great company, who are busy fighting Orks on a planet with an allied chapter called the Dragon Spears. Crom's company is going to lose the battle, but the Primaris come to help. The Primaris character Gaius, which we saw earlier, which is of course a son of Rus, is present. They introduce themselves as sons of Rus, and Crom is pretty happy. He sees the Primaris as a chance to grow his own company larger than the other companies and gain more political power in the chapter of the Space Wolves. So Crom takes 280 Primaris along with a custodian, a historitor, and a Primaris lieutenant back to Fenris to deliver the news of rebooted Guilliman and the new Primaris Marines to Logan Grimnar. Now, when they arrive with the Primaris, the ship and everything has to stay in orbit. They're not allowed to come down onto the actual planet of Fenris. Now, the Primaris character Gaius and his squad are actually smuggled down with a Grey Hunter squad. This Grey Hunter squad take it upon themselves to teach the Primaris their ways. It quickly becomes apparent that these new Primaris Marines are too imperial for them. The Space Wolves view them as not real sons of Fenris, and the Space Wolves regularly bully them and actually poke fun at these new Primaris Marines. Now, Grimnar himself isn't happy and doesn't trust rebooted Guilliman. The Indomitus force arrive at Fenris headed by a custodian and a Primaris son of Corax, who is a lieutenant called Castellor. They're told to wait until Grimnar summons them. They're treated with great hostility and mistrust. The Primaris lieutenant named Castellor is allowed to meet Logan Grimnar on a landing pad on the side of the Fang. So they have this meeting, and the Raven Guard lieutenant offers Logan Grimnar the gift of the Primaris Marine and requests that the Space Wolves coordinate their efforts with the Indomitus Crusade to help keep the area clear of Orks. Logan Grimnar is pretty unreasonable, and despite the advice of Najal, Argic, and Ulrich, he declines the Primaris, with the reason being that he sees rebooted Guilliman is a Legion breaker and is trying to take over once more. Elsewhere, a Fenrisian woman keeps having visions of a wolf dying to a great green troll. She leaves her village accompanied by her son, husband, daughter, and a handful of other Fenrisians. They embark on like a suicidal quest to reach the Fang, believing it's a message for them. And maybe the Sky Warriors are too busy dealing with everything else going on to have received this message. We have this whole scene with Primaris Gaius and the Firstborn Marines. Of course, they're referred to as Firstborn Marines in this book. They have a little argument when Gaius is told he's a good warrior, a good space marine, and he may be a space wolf, but he will never be a true Fenrisian, no matter how hard he tries. Now, Gaius is in a Thunderhawk, he's got his robes on, and he basically jumps out of this Thunderhawk on Fenris, only wearing his robes, in an attempt to prove not only himself worthy, but all the other Primaris Marines are worthy as well. He wants to try and survive and prove to these Fenrisian-born Space Wolves that he has, and the Primaris have, what it takes to become true sons of Fenris. Word reaches Guilliman about the gift of the Primaris being rejected by the Space Wolves. Therefore, he decides to go to Fenris himself and try to convince them to take his aid, that he isn't doing anything sneaky. When Grimnar is informed that Guilliman is of course coming, he gets nervous and recalls all the Space Wolves. All the Space Wolf companies return to Fenris following the summons from Grimnar. They have an emergency meeting consisting of all the Wolf Lords. Najal, Argic, Ulrich, Bjorn, the Fell-Handed is even there. Bjorn warns that Guilliman is not to be trusted, as he previously forced all the legions to break, almost causing a war until Dawn eventually agreed. Guilliman arrives at Fenris accompanied by Malavador Colvane, some tech priest, a firstborn Ultramarine, a Primaris Raven Guard Marine who works closely under Guilliman to learn from him. Guilliman meets with Logan Grimnar. Logan enters with a ton of like bravado, like I am the dog's bollocks, more or less. And Guilliman shocks everyone by kneeling to Logan Grimnar. But Logan Grimnar still denies the Primaris gift under the context that he thinks Guilliman just wants to get the Space Wolves indebted to him and then use the debt to control them. Guilliman says they are a gift to reinforce the first founding chapters as they are important, but Grimnar denies the reinforcements. Guilliman just says right, and he just prepares to leave. Now, then we go back to Gaius. Gaius is the guy who jumped out of the Thunderhawk to prove himself. He's been on this epic journey across Fenris. He actually bumps into the Fenrisian woman that we mentioned before, who had this kind of psychic vision, and he agrees to take her back to the Fang. While journeying to the Fang, he kills like a big wolf on Fenris. He also kills a serpent, which, nearly kills him. He braves like the worst Fenrisian winter, which is known as like the Hell Winter, there's been on Fenris in a long, long time. So to him, he's killed these two beasts, which has proven that he is a true son of Fenris. Now, Gaius manages to get the Fenrisian woman and her pack to the Fang, where she warns Najal Stormcaller and Logan Grimnar of her vision. Now, before Najal leaves, because he's very concerned about this vision, he checks her mind just to make sure everything is true and proper, and he sees the deeds of this Primaris Marine, what he's achieved while escorting her to the Fang. So he shares these deeds with Logan Grimnar, who is very, very impressed by what this Primaris Marine has achieved. This causes Grimnar to do like a 360 on his decision, and he agrees to accept the Primaris reinforcements and the Primaris creation technology to bring new life to the Space Wolves. But Logan Grimnar does make the point that he will not swear any oaths to Guilliman. Guilliman, of course, leaves happy because it all went to plan. All he wanted to do is have the Space Wolves embrace the Primaris Marine, that technology, so they're strong enough to hold that sector of space without him, and his Indominus Crusade can go on and keep reclaiming and keep fighting. Guilliman actually does mention the War of the Beast, which of course resulted in the Orks invading Terra long ago, and he's actually scared the Orks may get to Terra again, because the Orks are this massive threat now. They're getting behind Gaz's skull, and if they did manage to get to Terra, he thinks that politically the High Lords could be turned against him as a failure, and Guilliman could be like outshone, and it could cause more like galactic conflicts and stuff like that. So this is why it's so important for the Space Wolves to be fully strengthened so they can deal with the Orks, purge them back to make sure that they don't become a massive threat in the galaxy. Now, there's a few little side stories in this, which I'll just mention right at the end. There is a minor side plot where a Navy guy who is captured and is taken as an Orc slave. When he's eventually rescued by Custodian and some stormtroopers, he blurts a mad story about a human traitor commissar working for the Orcs, Gaz uniting all the Orc clans for the Great War, Gork and Mork being active, talking and helping the Orcs, the Custodian and a historitor interviewing like the rescued slave, believes it's all madness and it's not actually true, but we know it's true because we've seen it, of course, has his point of view in the book. There's another cool little scene as well where the Custodian, who is called Malvador Colquhoun, who is basically accompanying Guilliman, he's like, the watcher of Guilliman, like Guilliman's like custodian advisor, is actually practicing fighting / killing Guilliman in a simulation room, fighting physical holograms of Guilliman over and over. Of course, the Tribune Colquhoun, who is seen in Book 1 and Book 2, actively mistrusts and dislikes Guilliman. You can't really blame him because, of course, what the Primarchs did to the galaxy and the Emperor's plans years and years and years ago. But the book ends with the Primaris Gaius being renamed to Cariag Iron Oath and being accepted as a full Space Wolf and Fenrisian. Grimnar then takes his entire chapter, which is largely reinforced by thousands of new Primaris Space Wolves, to conquer the Space Hulk, kill the Orc Psyker Warlord easily. This Space Hulk then becomes a testing ground for the Primaris, where they have to navigate it without dying to the remaining Orcs and Xenos on board. If they reach their goal, then they are fully fledged Space Wolves, and of course Gaius is the test master for these new Primaris Marines. He's like, the first Primaris to be accepted, so he is like the tester of the Primaris Marines, and that's it. The book is done. All right, Chaperonios, that's enough waffling from me. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. It's probably more of a listening video than watching video because this is what these videos are. If you've got any thoughts, feedback, anything like that, post it down below and we can have a nice little talk down there. Of course, the main thing from this is that the book is called The Wolftime. And the Wolftime is like Leman Russ coming back. It is mentioned, of course, like they basically are in the Wolftime. That's what they see it in. So that is why the book is called the Wolftime, because for them, it is the Wolftime. Does this mean that Leman Russ is going to be coming back at some point because the Space Wolves think it's the Wolftime? I have no idea, but of course, I expected a little bit more Russ in this book, a little bit more talk about Russ, but yeah, was let down by that. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback, and we can have a nice little talk down below. See you in a bit. Have a great day, and bye-bye.